Hi, everybody. It's Dr. K, and I decided that in order to help you understand how to write a resume, I would go ahead and write one myself. I've got a blank Google Doc right here. Uh, I'm starting off with my name and contact information. One of the things I want you to remember about my video here is that I'm showing you how I would do a resume. Resumes change depending on discipline, depending on experience, depending on uh, a lot of variables. What you want to do is make sure that you talk with professionals in your field, your faculty, your career advisor, people who can tell you what a good resume should look like for your discipline. So you see I've got my contact information here, and already I'm thinking about, does it take up too much space? Remember, a resume, you're shooting for one page. I've been at this for 20 years. My resume at max will be 2 pages, and even then I would include my references on the second page, so that really it's 1.5 with references. So I've tried some different fonts here just to see font sizes and types, to figure out what feels best, what looks best. Notice I'm taking my name, I'm bolding it, I'm making it larger. I don't want everything on the page to stand out, but I know I need my name to stand out. Now, what I'm trying here is trying to figure out other ways to arrange the knowledge, the information, so that it takes up less space visually on the page. One of the critical concepts we have is white space and parallel structure. So look at what I'm doing here. I'm trying to set my phone number parallel to the address. I'm giving it white space and keeping things lined up. I use the tab button in order to move things in even increments. Now look, because my email address went too long, I had to back it up, and then I had to back in my phone number so that it lined up. Google Docs allows me to insert a line. This is not necessarily a thing you have to do, but it oftentimes helps to keep things clear. Later on in the process, you can make a decision about whether you want to keep that line or not. Now I'm listing my main areas. I know that I have to have an education section. I have to have an experience section. I want to talk about, is it going to be service? Is it going to be community service or volunteerism? I put in my references. Now, some alternatives that might end up in here include a summary. And I'm just making a note here that it's an optional piece. People who are at the start of their careers may not have much to say in a summary. People with a lot of technical or specific skills activities, like you are a computer programmer and know several different languages, or you speak several different languages, those might be pieces that go into a summary to help highlight skills that you have that the job wants. You see now I'm using those lines to create separation from my major categories. A little bit more about a summary or an objective statement or a pitch line. Those appear in some resumes. They're popular right now. They were not popular 10 years ago. They were not popular 20 years ago, but they were popular, I think, 25 years ago. Times change with a resume. This is a living document. You don't want to treat it like a static thing that will never change. And you do want it to have keywords from the job description whenever possible. So now, I've started off with my summary. And one of the things that I like to put in a summary are quantifiable accomplishments. If I know 5 languages, I want to list what they are. If I know how to program in 3 languages, I want to list what they are. If I have certifications in Agile training and Scrum Mastery, then I want to have that listed. Make sure this is your first chance to tie in keywords from your job description, so make sure those keywords count. Make sure that what you're saying in your summary is something that, that the folks want at the company you want to go to work for. Remember, it's also easier for them to know if you were in the $200,000 sales club or sales increase club. There it is, because I was. Put it in. Let them know when and how much and what you did. So you see, I'll be adding pieces of my own resume, my own background as we go. I don't think it'll all be my background, but a lot of it will. Make sure you get numbers whenever possible. In my career, I've built 6 programs and managed 9. So I list them. I say how many and I say how much. Notice I take the time not just to say that I was part of a sales increase club, but I also note where it was because people might have connections. If I'm interested in going into publishing, then I need to let them know that I had a career in publishing. Here's my line about supervising, hired, trained. Notice my parallel structures here, past tense verb. I'm no longer doing that work. If I'm still doing that work, I would want to keep that in present tense. Remember, your verb tense matters. So I'm using those verbs hired, recruited, trained to describe what I meant by supervised. Hired, recruited, trained, managed. 60 student and professional staff. So even here, when you talk about your relationship with people, you can, if you've had leadership, you can talk about you were president of an organization with 30 members, right? Developed 7 academic centers and offices. Now here we go with the typos. I always, my N's come out before my E's, so I always misspell center and student. I understand how I work physically, so I also know what I have to go back to and look for. Now, I'm adding in a section up here for a pitch line probably. Is that what I'm doing? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who I am. You know, one of the things I want you to think about as you're writing your resume is not to treat it like you can only put down final things. It's a living document, and it's a document in process. So what I'm doing as I write this is I'm trying to figure out who I am that I want these people to pay attention to me when I apply for a job with their company. So I choose to highlight things that I know are in the job description and that I know are points that are going to be emphasized throughout my resume and that I'll grow further when I tell the story of my career in my cover letter. So experienced manager, supervisor, and academic professional seeks ... And then I can go on with what I seek. A key to what you should be seeking. Don't just say a job. Everybody knows you want a job. There's nobody out there who doesn't want a job. Make sure that that pitch line sells you uniquely and has forward vision. Are you looking for a company you can move up in? Are you looking for a company you can establish yourself in? Are you looking for a place to hone new skills? Whatever you're doing, you might want to think about how to make that clear in that pitch line, that one sentence that's going to grab their attention. Talk with your career advisor about that, and they can help you think about what you really are trying to sell. Well, right now I'm working on the education section, and you see I'm struggling with how to make it all fit on a single line. One of the things that I like to do is set up my dates in a column on the right-hand side, and you see that that's what I'm working out. When I put in my education, I'm putting in my degree, the field, the school, and the state and city where I got the degree. I then follow with the date. You can see that I have not yet put in my GPA. What I'm doing to write this section is I'm thinking about my key elements and I'm getting them down in a parallel structure that works. And then, once I have all the pieces I want, I'm going to start making adjustments. So I have my main education points in here, and I know that I want an honors and awards section. So I'm going to go ahead and put in those honors and awards. I'll put in additional coursework or training that shows that I am skilled in a particular area. For example, I did some data science coursework, so I would include that right there in that additional coursework section. You see here that I'm struggling, trying to figure out what to do with that top line. And this is part of how you write a resume. You don't just write it perfectly on the first go. You can see that I'm planning to put more information in, so I space it all out so I can see where that info is going. All right? I've decided to list my schools right after my degree and then keep my field on the second line. I'm going to parallel that with each one. Whoops, went too far. Move the management down. And you see I'm going to have to readjust my dates, but now, after the field area, I can probably put a GPA in. There it is. And what I like to do is put in whatever it is on the scale of. So if it's a scale of 4.0, and most of us use a 4.0 scale, then I could say 3.67 out of 4.0. And then I can move on and straighten out my years. Management, comma, that should be a GPA 3.5 out of 4.0. Now, you'll notice that I wrote GPA in each spot. It's obvious that this is a GPA. Probably, if I don't do this, well, I made that same choice when I wrote this. I thought, no, I don't need that, so I just took it out. Your employer knows what a GPA is. Most people do, if they have any kind of college background. So you can just include what you need there. So I'm trying to make a decision about what to list here for honors and awards. Remember, in your draft stage, it doesn't hurt to just write everything you've done, everything you know. Write down all the features, and then you can turn around and cut things out if you find that they're less relevant, if they're unnecessary. You don't have to put it in stone the first time you put it down. A lot of students make that mistake. They think because they're not sure that they can't put it down, and so good things get left off. They also think sometimes that that what they put down has to be perfect. And so when they put it down and it's not perfect, they don't know what to do with it. See, now here I'm maintaining that parallel structure. You'll notice that I'm also including where the awards came from, if it's not evident. And here I'll be adding coursework that I've taken. And I'm putting it in a way that the reader knows what it is. I don't have to list course numbers and prefixes because those don't matter to an employer. What matters to them is that they can understand what the course is. If I took Principles of Finance, Cost Accounting, and Organic Chemistry, then I need to say those words. Everything else is a waste of time. Now notice I'm adding bold. Look at the headings. I used capital letters and bold for the major subject areas, and now I'm using lowercase and mixed case and bold for the smaller areas, the minor areas within a section. I'm also indenting to create division and clarity. I tried putting them all together. I didn't like how it looked. You know, I still don't know how long this resume is going to be. But I maintain a parallel structure. You see how there's no space between the heading and the next area? That's what I was showing you right there. How the bullets are right up against the word summary, how the first entry is right up against the word education. I'm trying to maintain parallel structure while also keeping the information clear through the use of white space. All right, so I've made a decision here. My font was too big. And if I increase the font or decrease the font except for my name, I realized I could put more on the page. Now, you don't want to take that font too small because if people can't read it, they're going to lose interest. And it becomes pretty obvious when you've been playing a font game. The other adjustment I could make is to shrink the margins down to a 1/2 inch. I've got to tell you, I'm not a great fan of it. I know that people do it. I know that career advisors suggest it. I don't like when I have a margin I can't write in. And the reason why is really simple. If I'm putting comments on a person's resume from an interview or anything like that, I need to be able to have space to do it. You take that margin down to a 1/2 inch, the person reviewing you may not have the room they want on there. Now I'm adding my experience. And I start off with market clerk at Reinhold's in Newport. I put in the season and the year. Now look what happened. it doesn't fit. And if I try to force everything over, it doesn't look right at the top. So I've got an issue here. Summer doesn't work. Can I put down months? So here I put down months. Let's see what that does. I still have to see if it can go over one. It doesn't work. So what if I try abbreviating? That works. Now I can push those dates back, keep everything parallel. So I know that I'm going to be using, whenever possible, abbreviated months of the year in each of my entries. See how that decision was made? It wasn't just me saying I want it like this and then shoehorning it in. What it was, does this work? Does it maintain my column, my clarity? Does it allow my reader to see what's happening clearly? If it doesn't allow the reader to see the document, then you've got to change what you do with the document. So that's how that decision was made. That wasn't just me imposing my will on a document. That was me understanding the relationship of content and form. The form requires clarity, the form requires white space, but the content must be clear. So now I'm listing what I did when I was a market clerk, and I'm using past tense verbs, stocked, operated, cleaned, in order to show exactly what happened in the past. And now I am putting them in the order that makes the most sense. That is, the most important thing I did was I operated the register. That's probably also the one that required the most responsibility. So I wanted that a plate where it could be highlighted. That's one of the decisions you'll have to make. It's not just a matter of rattling off what you did. It's a matter of explaining what you did using the keywords from your job description and prioritizing them in such a way that they stand out. If you embed something really important, the second or third line down in that list, it might get missed. But if it's right there at the top as your key responsibility, there's a pretty good chance it's going to be seen. So after I was a market clerk, I worked for the Office of Housing and Residence Life. And you see I'm having issues with the date again. You also see that the structure is not yet parallel, is it? I have market clerk italicized, and I don't have my job title listed at all in the next one. So I'm going to have to figure out how to put my job title in there. So I was a mail clerk. That was one of my jobs. I know I want it italicized. And now I'm making a choice that I'm going to shift where I present my job title. I'm going to put my employer on the first line, my job title on the second line. And notice I'm keeping a parallel structure. So if I do it in one place, I do it in another. Now here's the thing about being a mail clerk in Res Life. I didn't do that for 5 years, as you can see there. So I'm going to make a choice to line up my dates against my job title. Now I'm going to eventually have to change that up there with Reinhold's Grocery so that the dates that I held that job of market clerk are on the same line as the word market clerk. That's part of maintaining a parallel structure that makes your resume easy to read and easy to access and helps present you as an organized person. Now look, distributed mail to 480 residents. If I say I distributed mail, that doesn't tell people how many people I distributed mail to, how much responsibility I had. But the minute you know that I had 480 residents who got mail Monday through Saturday and it was my job to cart my butt in there and get them the mail, well, that sounds like, okay, the guy's doing more than just, wandering around with a bag on his arm. Here you go, have your letter. I had to prepare and distribute package notifications. That was a single activity. And then secured the mailroom. But it wasn't the only job I held. And here's why I chose to put my residence life experience. I was a mail clerk for 2 years. And then I was an office manager for 2 years. So here they are. Now I've got to italicize office manager. Come on. I'm going to put my activities in. Now, look at what I'm doing here. We'll get to italicizing the office manager in a minute. Notice that my bulleted items in each of my jobs have different verbs and different activities. Don't repeat yourself in your job description, in your resume. If I stocked shelves everywhere I went, I would only put it at one place, the place where I did it the most or I had leadership of that activity. Right? You want to make each job stand out. You want to make each position have its own importance. So here, operating the register, I can be trusted with money and I can be trusted with a business. Taking care of the mail, I understand that that's a serious requirement, that there's a security that's needed, discretion that's needed. And with office manager, I had a staff to supervise. I had to maintain a larger unit than what I did when I was securing the mailroom or when I was the stock boy putting canned goods on the shelves in high school. And you see here, I'm still trying to figure out how to say things best. And one of the challenges that happens, you see, look what happened right there. One thing that I'm trying to do is avoid having my descriptions, my bulleted items of activities, go into my column with the dates. When you stick the descriptions and they run that long, it's going to be harder for you to see. Now here what I'm doing is I'm maintaining the order. I was a mail clerk further in the past. So this order has to be shifted. In a minute, I'm probably going to have to take Reinhold Grocery and move it down to the bottom because that's the thing that I did furthest back in time. Here I'm checking to see if I'm duplicating myself. Maintain facility security versus secured mailroom. Do I need to keep secured mailroom when I already have maintained facility security? I don't know that I need to keep them both. Are they offering me anything different? So it looks like I'm about to move this. Yep. Because you want to start with your most recent experience. So look, when I created this, I didn't say I was going to put them in their final order when I was brainstorming them. I just wrote them down so that I'd have them to look at and to work with. See here, I'm trying to decide if indenting the job title looks good. It doesn't. I didn't like it, so I moved it back. I decided I wanted to highlight my employers to kind of maintain a parallel structure, right? So probably, am I about to bold those? I might not. Nope, I decided against it. Now, it may sound funny, me narrating something that I actually did several days ago. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want you to see that these choices are not set in stone. Okay, so here's a decision I made, that the market experience from high school wasn't even useful for the purpose of my resume. High school employment usually gets superseded quickly by everything that I do. And the responsibilities I had taking care of 480 residents outweighed the responsibilities I had shoving 480 cans of groceries. So you can see what I did. Now look, you see how that procedures there sticks into the dates? We're going to have to adjust that. Trained staff in other residence buildings. Do I need to say that? Trained resident staff. Trained other residence life staff. Obviously they're in buildings. Trained other residence life staff in office protocols and procedures. So look, just taking care of my words on that line allowed me to shrink that down, make it tighter, make it more focused, move it up in my priority list, and it doesn't interfere with the dates. So these are choices that you have to learn how to make as you assemble your resume. And the only way you do this is by practice. you see that I'm still not happy with the spacing. So I fiddled with it. Do I want to add to it? Does it look right? I still don't like the fact that I've got those separated, but that summary has the bulleted list directly attached. I was having a hard time figuring this out that day. I got prepared, liaised, trained. I've moved on to the verbs. I'm checking them to make sure that they're all past tense if they're in the past, that there's diversity among them. All right, apparently I feel good enough that I can move on. Apparently I decided the coursework wasn't important, so I moved that out. You see, just because you put it down to explore does not mean you have to marry it. Right? Now I'm experimenting with spacing to see if my spacing looks and feels right. And I'm thinking about how much space I have left to operate with. So now I'm getting into my service. This is my community involvement, what I've done in the past to help others. And employers want to see this because they want to know that you're committed to something greater than yourself. And that's a simple fact of the matter. So here we go. We put in what my involvement is, Sunday school teacher. What else did I say? Something at Lower State University. I was on the cycling team. I better put the dates in there. Notice that the dates for my activities are also from newest to oldest. You always want to highlight the most recent work that you've done, and you always want to try, you don't have to fill in every gap. Sometimes gaps happen, but you probably want to make sure that your reader has them filled in. Now look, I've added the President's Commission on LGBTQ Equality at my alma mater. Why would I add that? I would add that because maybe I'm applying for a management job where diversity and inclusion are serious issues. I need to be able to show that I had that. But there's another thing to be aware of here. LGBTQ, church involvement, these reveal political positions. They reveal your politics. And some people, that's a huge turnoff. Other people, they like to see that. So you have to be mindful. You have to make a decision sometimes about what your activities reveal about who you are. I'm still questioning the order and the way I've organized my bulleted lists. You see that this is not a quick 5-minute done thing. We're now almost to 30 minutes. And I'm still trying to make decisions about what should be included and what shouldn't. Now, I wanted to end this by just taking a few minutes to give you a sense of how to organize your references list. And at the top of your references page, if you're going to keep it separate, you should probably put your name, address, phone number, email at the top so that they know that the references page is yours. It's attached to you. When you list the references, look at what I've done here. Name, business title, business address, business phone, business email, whenever and wherever possible. And I set it up as a stack. So I'll just repeat it, get 3 references down the page. I add in my page numbers to make sure that I'm only going to 2. But if you go beyond 1, add a page number. And so here are some notes for you. When you go to revise your resume, what keywords in the job description are you missing, and how do you fit them in? All right? Keywords that often happen: collaboration, writing, speaking, clear communication, strong interpersonal communication skills. Fast-paced learner is something that generally comes up. Or an independent learner, or a self-motivated learner. So now maybe I go through and I find, is there a place where I can highlight those things? And if there are, then I'd better find a way to get them in. And here, like my clear communication, I can put that in my Res Life experience. My collaboration, again, that's probably Res Life. There it is. So you see what I'm doing here is developing a strategy for revision by looking at what I still need to include and looking at what areas it might still fit. So now I've found a place. Fast-paced learner is part of the mail clerk job. So now I can go back up and I can revise my document again. I hope you can see from this video that creating a resume doesn't have to begin with a template, and that if you just think about what you've done and try to explain it clearly in concise terms, you can actually share a lot about who you are with potential employers. Happy writing, and good luck on that job search.